Most people think accounts get banned one at a time for something each account did. That is not really how it works. Platforms do not ban accounts, they ban links between accounts. The moment they can tell that two accounts are the same person, one ban quietly becomes all bans, the whole batch gone in an afternoon. Today I want to explain exactly how that linking works, the signals they use, and the three layers you actually have to separate to stop it, because almost everyone fixes one layer and leaves the other two wide open. Quick honesty up front, because two of the three layers are things I sell. I run mobile proxies and I run cloud phones, so when I get to the solutions, I am describing my own world and you should weigh that. But the mechanism I am about to explain is just how detection works. It is not a sales pitch. And the third layer is a tool I do not sell at all. And I want to be clear from the start, nothing here prevents bans. There are no guarantees in this game. Good isolation reduces the risk that your accounts get linked. That is all anyone can honestly promise. Here is the plan. First, the core idea that platforms ban links, not accounts. Then the signals they use to link you grouped into layers. Then the three layers of isolation that actually break those links, and the one mistake that quietly undoes all your effort. So the core idea, imagine you run 10 accounts and one of them trips a rule. If the platform sees that account in isolation, you lose one account. But if it can connect that account to the other 9 through anything they share, then catching one is catching all 10. So their entire game is connection, finding the invisible threads that tie your accounts back to one person. And your entire game is cutting those threads, making each account look like a genuinely different person on a genuinely different setup. Everything else is detail. And here is the part that trips people up. You do not have to do anything obviously wrong to get linked. The link is passive. It is built quietly in the background from the technical facts of how you connect, long before any account misbehaves. So the platform is not sitting there judging your content. It is building a quiet map of who is probably the same operator, and that map is finished before you ever trip a rule. The day one account slips, they already know who its 9 siblings are. That is why people get blindsided. They were graded on connection the whole time and only found out when the bill came due. So what are the threads? The first group is the network layer, your IP address. If 10 accounts all log in from the same IP, that is the most obvious link there is. You have basically signed them all with the same pen. And it is not just an identical IP, it is the same subnet, the same data center range, the same hosting company that no normal home user sits behind. Your address that belongs to a known server provider is a flag before you do anything, because real people at home are not on those ranges. And a so-called residential IP is only as clean as the company you keep on it, because 100 other people pushing the same kind of traffic through that one address will burn it, and you inherit their reputation the second you log in. Reusing one address across your own accounts or renting a flagged one is the fastest way to get the whole group connected, and it goes wider than the single address. Platforms group IP addresses into neighborhoods, the subnet, and then into the larger block owned by one company. So even if your 10 accounts each get a slightly different IP, if all 10 of those addresses sit in the same little block, rented from the same server provider, the platform reads that as one source. You did not reuse an address, but you reused a neighborhood, and to detection that is nearly the same tell. The addresses that survive are the ones scattered across genuine consumer networks, where being near another real person is normal and means nothing, not stacked together inside a block that screams one operator bought 100 of these at once. The second group is the device layer. Platforms fingerprint the device itself, the hardware, the operating system, the model, the screen, the sensors, and the identifiers buried in the phone. The advertising ID, the device ID, the build numbers, the little quirks of one specific handset all add up to a signature. If 10 accounts all run from the same physical device, that signature is identical 10 times over. and the link is obvious. And emulators are worse, not better, because 10 emulator instances tend to look the same under the hood. Same fake sensors, same default values, same telltale signs that no real phone reports. This is the layer people forget. They fix the IP and keep logging every account into the same phone or the same emulator and wonder how they got caught when the device was screaming the connection the whole time. The third group is the browser layer, which sits on top of the device when you are working in a browser. Your browser leaks a fingerprint built from dozens of small details: the canvas, the WebGL renderer, the audio stack, the exact list of fonts you have installed, the user agent, the screen size and color depth. Put together, that fingerprint is often unique enough to single you out on its own. And on top of the fingerprint, the browser carries cookies and local storage, the little files that remember who is logged in. If your accounts share one browser profile, the platform links them through the fingerprint and watches cookies and stored logins bleed from one account into the next, even when your IP and your device looked completely fine. And the fourth group is the behavioral layer, the one no tool fully fixes. The same posting times, the same daily rhythm, the same velocity of actions, the same copy and pasted text, clicking through steps faster than a human hand could move. Real people are slow and uneven. They pause, they make typos, they log in at random hours. 10 accounts that all wake up at the same minute, fire the same sequence of actions at machine speed, and go quiet at the same time are not 10 people. They are one script wearing 10 masks, and a platform that watches timing for a living can see that shape from a mile away. And crucially, the real-world details people forget: the same payment card across 10 accounts, the same recovery email, the same phone number used to verify all of them. Those last ones are brutal, because a card and a recovery address are direct, owned by one person by definition, and they survive every technical precaution you take. You can isolate the network, the device, and the browser perfectly and still hand the platform a clean confession by paying for 10 accounts with one card or recovering them all to one inbox. A card number is a name and an address with extra steps, and a recovery email is a permanent thread back to a single human no proxy can hide. Behavior and shared real-world details are how careful, well-funded setups still get caught. So now the solution, and it maps directly onto those layers. There are 3 layers of isolation you have to get right together, not one at a time, all at once. The first is network isolation, a clean separate proxy for each identity so no 2 accounts ever share an address. For soft targets, a good residential proxy does it. For the hard account-heavy platforms, a mobile proxy is the strongest, and the reason is worth understanding. A mobile carrier hands one public address to thousands of real phones at the same time. So behind that single IP there are genuine people doing genuine things all day. A platform cannot block that address without blocking a crowd of real customers. And it cannot cleanly tell your account apart from the others sharing it. That crowd is your cover. That is the network thread cut. The second is device isolation, a genuinely separate device fingerprint per identity. An emulator fails here in 2 ways. 10 instances look identical, so they link to each other instantly, and many platforms detect the emulation itself and refuse to trust it, so you are flagged as fake before you even sign in. The clean answer is a real, distinct device per identity, and that is where cloud phones come in: a real handset, real hardware, real sensors that passes the integrity checks an emulator cannot fake. Modern platforms run hardware-backed attestation, a check that asks the phone itself to prove it is a genuine certified device and not software pretending to be one. And an emulator simply cannot produce that proof. A real device passes it without trying because it is exactly what the check is looking for. So each identity gets its own real device signature, its own attested hardware, nothing shared and nothing duplicated. That is the device thread cut. The third is browser isolation, a separate Antidetect browser profile per identity whenever your work lives in a browser. Each profile carries its own consistent fingerprint and its own sealed cookies and storage. Nothing bleeds from one account to the next, and no two profiles look alike. This is the layer I do not sell, and I will say that plainly. I covered the real options in an earlier video: multi-login, go-login, Dolphin, HC Power, and which one fits depends on your budget and how many profiles you run. That is the browser thread cut. Now, the one mistake that undoes everything, and it is the reason people who have spent real money still get banned in a batch. They fix one layer and ignore the other two, and they think money spent on the strong layer covers for the weak ones. It does not. Picture the three classic combinations: a great mobile proxy on every account, but every one of those accounts logged into the same phone, so the device fingerprint ties them together no matter how clean each IP is. Or a perfect Antidetect browser with a flawless fingerprint per profile, all of it routed through one cheap shared IP, so the network thread links them while the browser layer sits there doing its job for nothing. Or real distinct devices, the expensive correct answer on the device layer, undone by paying for all of them with one card and posting on one schedule, so behavior and payment hand over the connection for free. Detection only needs one uncut thread. A chain with one weak link is just a broken chain, and the platform always pulls on whichever thread you forgot, not the ones you got right. So the honest summary: platforms link accounts. They do not judge them in isolation, and they link through the network, the device, the browser, and your behavior. Real separation means a clean proxy, a real distinct device, an isolated browser profile, and sane non-repetitive behavior with no shared cards or recovery details, all at once, every layer at the same time. Get all of them right and you reduce the risk a lot. Leave one open and the rest barely matter, because the open one is the thread they pull, and nobody honest will promise you more than reduced risk, because that is all there is. Anyone selling you a guarantee is selling you the one thing this game does not have. So here is where I fit, disclosed plainly. The network layer is what I actually build, real mobile proxies on real carrier connections in Singapore, and the device layer is real cloud phones, real handsets in a rack, and I run both. So I am exactly as biased as that sounds. The browser layer I do not sell, and I will point you to the honest options for it, regardless of whether it makes me a cent. All of it, including the tools I make no money from, is written up at blackhatreview.org/category/proxies, so you can see the whole stack in one place, weigh the parts I sell against the parts I do not, and decide for yourself. That wraps the first run of reviews on this channel. The whole idea here is simple. I run this infrastructure for real. I buy and test the services sold around it, and I tell you the honest version, including when the answer is not the thing I sell. There is a new tested review every weekday, plenty more roundups and teardowns coming, so subscribe and I will see you in the next one.